I've really been developing a small collection of different Jazzmasters, and my appreciation for them has been growing by the day. I wanted to take my first outing of actually putting one together. It's kind of an assembly project versus build because I'm taking prefabricated large components or modules and assembling them into the final guitar. I'm already formulating my next Jazzmaster or Partsmaster build, and in that build, instead of buying a pre-made wiring harness, I'll actually build my own. So the first step in my project was to drill the holes in the body for the tremolo. When you drop the tremolo into the routed slot in the body, it's pretty close to being aligned already. I placed the bridge into its position, and then I already had the neck installed, so then I installed a low E and high E string. And I can then sight down the guitar from the tremolo all the way down, and this helps me basically do the final alignment where the bridge needs to sit. Once I was certain where it was perfectly aligned, I then taped down the tremolo with blue tape. Now I drilled the holes. To drill the initial hole for each location, I used a VIX, or what's also called a self-centering bit, that you can buy on like Amazon or get at any hardware store. These drill bits have a tapered sleeved nose that automatically centers when you place it into the tapered holes of the tremolo. When I push down on the drill then, the bit tip protrudes through the nose, drilling a perfectly centered hole each time. The bit is guided and cannot bend, so it enters precisely in the center of the hole, so I have perfectly drilled holes in my tremolo when I'm done. If you don't have a drill press, I do have a drill press, but it's difficult for me to film for the videos on. But using a hand drill with a VIX bit, as long as you make sure that you're perpendicular to what you're drilling into, you're gonna basically do a much better job. Next, I needed to set the pickups correctly in place in the body. I used the pickguard as my alignment jig. Then I drilled the 8 holes for the screws, 4 in each pickup. The pickups, when they're screwed into the body, rest on top of foam. Sometimes the new pickups will come with the needed foam. Mine did, but it was kind of small. I cheated and purchased a bag of pre-cut foam that I use for doing P90 and Jazzmaster pickups as a sticky side. I then attached that to the body and then basically screwed my pickups into place. I then wired the pickups to the wiring harness and placed grounds that were attached to 2 different places in the control cavity, and then another one to the bridge post thimble and one to the tremolo. This was not an inexpensive project. I was not trying to build something on the cheap, so hopefully this will reduce the comments on how I could have just bought Guitar Model X and saved money. I started with a genuine Fender pickguard in mint green for $37.96. It's genuine Fender pickguard. I ordered then a used Fender Ventura 250s Jazzmaster bridge and tremolo. I paid $115.49 with tax and shipping. I ordered a 920D custom Jazzmaster vintage wiring harness for $195.29. The dollar totals that I'm giving you include tax and shipping. For the body, I wanted something really different. And so I, through an auction, bought an MJT official custom vintage age nitro guitar body, a Jazzmaster body, for $372.20 in pink. I ordered Fender Pure Vintage 65 Jazzmaster pickups, brand new, for $162.73. And then for the neck, I ordered a Fender Roasted Jazzmaster neck, maple and paw ferro with block inlays, for out the door $489.33. A total on the project was $1,373. I really learned a lot in this project, and I had fun. The most labor-intensive task that I had in the project was prepping the body for installing the bridge post thimbles. I did not have a drill bit in the correct size, and so I'll cover what I had to do. I finally found online if the holes are undersized, like what I had found with the MGT pre-drilled holes, you need to open them up some so it's just a snug enough fit to tap your thimbles into place. It makes total sense that MJT sends out the bodies with smaller holes than what you need. I found that 3 different bridges I had in the shop, when I measured the thimbles on each of the bridges, they each had different measurements for the size of the exterior of the thimble. Online, I read that this is actually pretty common. Mine, when measured with calipers, came in at 0.351 inch. I took a smaller dowel rod and I taped some 240 grit sandpaper around it. And then I would lightly sand the inside of the 2 holes with me every few minutes testing, trying to insert my thimbles. And it took me about an hour to get my body to the point where I could insert both the thimbles about halfway by hand. Then using a brass punch and rubber mallet, I tapped them in the rest of the way. A few issues that I ran into when doing the final assembly of the guitar: the pick guard holes for the bridge did not align perfectly. I ended up taking my Dremel tool and cutting a small amount of the pick guard away until they did. The cool thing is the bridge, when installed, will hide this. The next issue I found was I basically ended up having to install 2 different necks to test what was causing the problem. The problem that I was having was when I installed the neck and I would install strings, the bridge would bottom out when I was trying to adjust string height, and then the string height would still be too tall. The MJT body in both necks that I installed ended up needing a 1-degree shim for me to be able to properly set up the string height. Otherwise, the bridge, like I said, would just bottom out completely, and the strings would still be way too high for me to comfortably play. As I said, I installed 2 necks at different sources, and I had exactly the same issue, so I'm pretty sure it was the body that was at fault. I ended up installing the neck that I purchased for the project and leaving the shim in place. Once I did this, I was able to adjust my string height perfectly and still have a little play in the height of the bridge. Also, since this was a brand new neck, I needed to use my nut slot files so I could install 10 to 46 size strings. I basically just widened each slot so the new string would be able to fit. I'm not normally a big fan of Pau Ferro for fretboards, but I think in this case it works really well with the shell pink of the body. I also really like the detail in the block inlays. Overall, it's a very pretty guitar that I'm going to keep and probably not ever sell. I'm really happy with how she plays and how she sounds. One last thing, the 920 custom wiring harness is a very high quality made harness. I was really impressed with it, and so far I would recommend it.